Hello and welcome back to another week of Open Mic Night. So glad you guys made it back. Tonight we are joined by Mr. Colin, and we're going to be talking all about SEO. We're going to talk about some Apple news and also talk about some of the questions that you guys posted to the Facebook group. So stick around. It's going to be a pretty good time. All right, so like I said, welcome back to another week of Open Mic Night. Really glad you guys could join us again this week. And tonight we are joined by a special guest, Mr. Colin Ball. He's no stranger to the show. If you guys have watched in the past, he's my good buddy. But Colin, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Just getting through the week. It's been one of those weeks already, and it's only Tuesday, you know? When that happens.
I didn't go to work yesterday, so this is my Monday.
Well, there you go. Well, then today was probably worse for you than it was for me if it was your Monday, so...
Sure, I'll give you that.
Cool. Well, tonight I brought Colin on because Colin knows a lot about SEO, and he works for a company that does a lot of that. And so I want to talk to you guys about that. But for the first part of the show, we're going to stick to our normal routine. We're going to talk about some news, and then I'm going to go over some of the questions that you guys have posted in the Facebook group. And so, but first, I want to thank WLMN Radio for streaming my show. WLMN Radio they're all on the internet and then also on the airwaves in Grafton, West Virginia. But if you guys are interested in any sort of tech talk or good music, head on over to WLMNradio.com. They've got a lot of other tech shows, and they also stream me. And we are actually now streaming live with them. So if you are joining us from WLMNradio.com right now, welcome. And for those of you guys who are listening to the podcast version, it's a good time to mention that you guys can come out and join us live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, like we are right now, over on omnpodcast.com/live. So come on out and join the chat room if you guys want to. And it's kind of fun. You guys get to interact with the show, and you can ask your questions and do all that sort of stuff. So come on out and do that. But let's just move on right into the news. So the first kind of news story, there's just two. I just picked out two this week because, we're going to be talking about SEO a lot. So the first piece of news is kind of fun. It's that Apple actually is moving to more diverse emojis. So for those of you who love emojis, or maybe for those of you who don't know what emojis are, they're little icons you can use in text messaging and emails and all that sort of stuff. The fun, there's like puppy dogs and thumbs up and smiley faces and all that sort of stuff. But the news is that Apple is actually now more diverse. So when you select a smiley face, you can select it in all different skin shades, I guess. And so the way it's going to work is that you're going to be able to tap and hold on the emoji, and then up will pop kind of all the different sort of ethnicities or skin colors, whatever you want to call it. And so just kind of encompassing more people. And obviously that makes sense because Apple is a worldwide company now. So probably about time that they do this. Any thoughts on this? I mean,
when I first saw it, I thought that it was a little kind of late to the party.
Right.
Because I feel like people have been asking for this since, when did emojis become big? With 6.0 iOS or 7?
I know that before they actually were in iOS, there was some apps that you could use.
Yeah.
But yeah, they really started becoming, I think it was iOS 6, yeah.
So, when the emoji keyboard became the thing that people kind of went to and added, I feel like there were some calls for, why is everyone white? Which, it sounds a little PC, but it's true. It's like all of a sudden there's more people using Apple products than just one gender, one race, one religion. So
yeah,
kind of have to open it.
Well, that's why I thought it was kind of a long time coming.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they did it. It shows good on Apple to do that. And I know that, it's kind of hard too, because you have the argument of, it's a United States company, but United States is diverse too. It's not to say that, we don't have anything more here. So, I think it was a long time coming. And from what I've heard, it makes people happy to see it. So overall, a good thing. Yeah. It is kind of funny though, to see, all the different stuff they added.
I will say the thing I kind of laughed at was the different thumbs up. Like they have the
is
picture
there really?
of the thumbs up, and it just kind of follows a shade.
That's
it's
awesome.
almost like looking at like a monochromatic scale, I think is what it is.
Right, yeah.
So all of a sudden you just see one thumbs up, and then it just works its way down the color scheme, and it's like, Well, that's kind of odd.
Yeah, well, that's why, because I saw like the grandpa one or the grandma, and it was just like a grandpa all of a sudden like different shades and stuff like that. So pretty funny.
Yeah.
So following Apple news is the next story is that Apple Pay is starting to become extremely popular in the United States. Actually, kind of funny, today my bank just added Apple Pay, so I was able to just add my card today. Haven't used it yet. But if you guys have an iPhone 6, 6 Plus, iPad Air 2, or iPad Mini 3, you guys can use Apple Pay. And so it's becoming extremely popular, and people are actually starting to really like it, I think. I mean, you don't have the new phone yet, right? So you can't use it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know my dad uses it, and he actually said he really enjoys it, and American Express was one of the first ones to kind of jump on. So he was able to try it right away, and so he really likes it. But the story, actually the news story, is that in China, they are having trouble getting it past the government and with the private banking industry and stuff like that over there, and the state-run banks. They're having trouble getting it approved. And so there's one company really that controls all of their NFC, which if you guys know anything about Apple Pay, NFC is exactly how your phone interacts with the terminal to pay for whatever you're buying. And so there's one company over in China that really controls the market. And so Apple's having a little bit of trouble with them and getting it passed. But obviously, I mean, China's a huge market.
Yes, and especially for Apple. I think Apple finally outsold Samsung for the first time in China this year.
Right, yeah.
So if that's the case, then Apple definitely saw the need. So,
well, yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things. If I'm sure China was probably one of the first areas, okay, we need to get this. Once it's the United States, we need to get it passed. But obviously they're going to run into a lot of trouble. First of all, because there's always that kind of interaction between China and the United States with technology.
Yeah.
And, our countries just don't trust each other. That's one of the main problems.
Yes.
We don't trust each other.
No.
Although we may like each other, we don't trust each other yet. And so I'm not really sure when it's going to get passed. I mean, this might be one of those things that it might take a year. I mean, or even more.
I mean, it's going to take some time. I mean, I don't know much about like trade regulations and whatnot, so I couldn't speak to both, but I think at the same time it's taken a long amount of time for a lot of other things to kind of go through between China and the US, so this is just going to be one more tally to add.
I would definitely agree. Yeah. Well, but like we said, it's something that Apple definitely needs. China is their second, or maybe it might be actually it's the largest mobile phone market. I know that. So in the world, it's the largest mobile phone market. So it is something that needs to happen. We're just not sure when. And so obviously Apple's going to be working with the governments in the coming months and years to get that to work. So hopefully I'll give you guys an update if this actually passes over in China. But just an update to Apple Pay in general. A lot of people I think were kind of confused because Apple Pay technically was released about a month after the iPhone 6 came out. But a lot of people like me were not able to use it right away. So they would go to scan their card into the Apple Pay and it would say, hey, your financial institution does not support Apple Pay yet. So the way Apple Pay works is Apple Pay needs to be accepted by the stores and the people accepting your credit card, so having an NFC terminal, and that needs to work, but they also need to be supported by your financial institution. So if I use First National Bank in Omaha, they're the biggest bank here, and they just approved it today. But some of the bigger banks like Wells Fargo, Citi, some of them jumped on right away. But if you guys tried it in the past, maybe ask your bank and see what they say, if they're going to add it in the future, or try it again today. Maybe they've added it and you didn't even know. I wouldn't have known except for my bank sent me an email this morning. So that was nice. But I know a lot of people, I got a lot of emails saying like, hey, I can't use Apple Pay. Aren't I supposed to be able to use that? And yes, but there's a lot of things that need to be able to happen before you can actually use it.
Yeah.
So that is going to wrap it up for the news today. Like I said, just kind of a quick news segment just to give you guys just enough to be filled in. So just enough Apple news and stuff like that. And actually, speaking about Apple news, is that if you guys haven't noticed in the last week, I am kind of transforming Open Mic Night into a primarily Apple-based show. And so one of the fun announcements that I have for you guys is that I am actually going to be having Open Mic Night be primarily Apple-focused. And then for the general tech side, I'm actually joining Mr. Jim Collison over at The Average Tech Guy. I am going to be his co-host every Thursday night for Home Gadget Geeks. And so if you guys kind of want the more general tech and not Apple-focused stuff, come on over there. It's Thursday nights. I got to get the time from Jim. I can't remember what time it is, but Thursday nights over at theaverageguy.tv. Really excited about this. Really excited to be joining Jim. It's going to be kind of a fun new project for us both. But obviously, Home Gadget Geeks for him has been going for years, and I'm just hopping on as the new co-host. And so that's kind of the big transformation we're going. So for those of you like, man, he's been doing a lot of Apple stuff lately. there's a reason. This has become more of an Apple show. And then my general tech stuff will be over with Jim on Home Gadget Geeks. So yeah, kind of a fun announcement.
That's cool.
Yeah, a lot of fun. So next we are going to be moving into the questions segment of Open Mic Night. And so if you guys don't know, there is a new Facebook group out there. It's called Uyghur Tech Forums. If you guys just head over to omnpodcast.com in the social media dropdown, you'll see Facebook group and you guys can go ahead and join there. And I was actually surprised in the past 2 weeks, we've had quite a bit of questions. I think we had like 6 questions posted out there. And I like to see there are other people out there too that are answering questions. So that's a lot of fun. That's the whole point of the group, is to kind of, it's not just for me to answer, it's for you guys to post your questions. And then if you guys know an answer to someone else's, go ahead and feel free to post to that. But I love having you guys out there. So if you're not part of that Facebook group yet and you're listening to this podcast, go out and join that. It's a lot of fun. And so I picked 3 questions off of the Facebook group to answer tonight. And then I have 2 for next week that we will go over then. So the first one is Katie had a question about syncing calendars. And her question was that her calendar is not syncing between her phone and her computer. She will put an event in on her computer and then it won't show up on her iPhone. And so this is kind of a broad problem because there's a lot of things technically that could be going wrong. And so it's kind of hard to diagnose, but I kind of wanted to give you guys just a few quick steps if you're having this problem to kind of diagnose the issue. So the first one, and it's kind of, for me, it's kind of the thing that I always ask first, is when you are adding your event to your calendar, just make sure you know what calendar you're adding it to. Now that kind of sounds odd. You're like, what calendar? I'm adding it to my calendar on my computer. But when you have sometimes multiple accounts set up, and especially on the Mac, on Macs, it already by default puts your iCloud calendar in there and your personal calendar. But if you're trying to get maybe a Gmail calendar, or if you have a school calendar, if you use Outlook and you're trying to do that, you might be adding it to the wrong calendar. And I know Outlook as well, the application on the Mac has its own just on the computer calendar, like it's not shared, it's not synced anywhere. And then it also has whatever your account is. So like, let's say for me, since I go to Creighton, I have my Creighton Outlook account plugged into my computer. Well, if I go onto my iCal and I just click add, and by default, my calendar wants it to put on my iCloud. And so if then I go to my phone, it won't be on my school calendar. If I go anywhere else, it won't be on there because I added it to the wrong calendar. So just double check to make sure you're adding it to the right calendar. That may or may not be the problem you're having, but it's just something to check into. I know it's kind of a common mistake that even I've made, even though I know that's a problem, I still make I still make that mistake.
Yeah.
So, I've done it before.
Sometimes I have too many calendars and I wonder why it's showing up on my phone. And then I remember, it syncs automatically.
Right,
so.
Right. Or sometimes I just wish there was one that just synced across them all. Like I was like, okay, I want this to show up at school, at work, on my phone and stuff like that. Especially when you have like a lockdown, like at work, our calendar's all locked down. And so I have to open a special app to look at it. It's kind of a mess. But So the second thing, though, to check on there is, for some reason, I actually just helped a person at school with this today. On the Mac especially, when you're looking at iCloud or any other sort of service, sometimes it just randomly signs out. It'll sign you out, or it thinks it's signed in and it's not. And so if you go into your system preferences and you go into your internet accounts or to your iCloud tab, whichever one you're trying to work with, just kind of sign out and sign back in. Sometimes that works. I know with iMessage especially, that's the problem I had today that I was helping someone with, is their iMessage was not coming into their computer. We just signed out, signed back in, and for some reason that just, triggered the system to work again. And so, but I know that for Katie, at least, it wasn't iCloud. It wasn't that account. So I'm hoping it was the calendar issue for Katie. So I'm going to hopefully, catch up with her again to see if the problem's fixed. But that's one more thing about the Facebook group, is if something does work for you, if someone suggests a solution and it works, let us know. That way other people can be like, okay, that's the solution that works. And so a lot of times with IT stuff, there's a bunch of different ways to fix your problem. And so one might not work, but another might. So it's a lot of fun there. And the next question we had was someone had a new iPhone 5, actually a used iPhone 5, but new to them. They bought it off a friend. And when they put in their SIM card into the phone, I'm guessing, I guess they all have SIM cards now, don't they? Does Verizon? So. Yeah, I think they all do, because LTE requires a SIM card. So he put in his new SIM card, and all of a sudden his Wi-Fi stopped working. Now, this is kind of a complex issue because it's not really something that we have access to solve, because it's probably most likely a hardware issue. But there is one thing you can try. The one thing I always suggest, if there's something that's a little more complicated, it's not just a setting issue. You've turned it on and off. You took out the SIM card and put it back in. You've tried all that sort of stuff. doing just a full restore of the phone. So if you go to settings, general, and then I think it's down to like erase or reset, there's an option to do a full restore. Now, obviously you want to back it up first. So either back it up to iCloud or plug it into your computer and back up. But doing a full restore is always a good thing. It just kind of gets rid of anything wonky with your phone. And so the best thing to do is to do a full restore and not use an iCloud backup. But obviously no one wants to do that because it's a pain to go in and add all your stuff back in. That's the best though, because sometimes there might be something in your actual backup that's causing a corruption. It could be a synced setting. It could be something in the file system that's going to come back with the backup. So, it's always something, if you can do a full restore without putting your backup back on, that's the best. But obviously, I've never even done that because I can't just make my phone, I can't do that. It takes way too much time.
Oh, yeah.
So, going back in and adding all that stuff.
Wasn't this also a problem when iOS 8.0.1 came out? Where
I didn't even think about that.
I believe it was 8.0.1.
Yes, you're right. There was the Wi-Fi issue.
The Wi-Fi issue iPhone 5 and a 5S were the only ones out at the time.
Right.
But I'm not saying that his phone was up to that one, but
no, I didn't even think about that. See, this is why I have you on. This is why we have,
popped into my head.
Yeah. So Matt, if you're listening, try that. Try updating. See if there's an update for the phone. That might actually work. Now, you'll have to plug the computer or plug the phone into your computer to do the update, because obviously it won't be able to download that update via the LTE, and you don't want to because it would chew through your data cap. But yeah, very good. I'm gonna have to post that in the Facebook group. So yeah, Matt, give that a try. Try updating the phone. But yes, so what Colin's referring to is back when I don't even know what it was. It was 8 point something. One of the 8 point something releases.
After 8.0 came out.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
So right away, and then I think it still continued after. I think it was even after 8.1, because now we're on 8.1.3.
Yes. And
so somewhere, and especially with the computers, with all Apple devices, I know it was affecting computers especially and phones. Wi-Fi issues were running rampant with 8.0. And so if you are experiencing any Wi-Fi issues, man, I'm so glad you brought that up. Do check and see if there's any updates out, both for your computer and for your iOS devices. So iPad, iPhone, computers, run all the updates you can. And especially on any older laptops and iMacs. I know that on older laptops and iMacs, the Wi-Fi problem was more prevalent, and so give that a try. That would be one good thing. Man, that was awesome. Good suggestion.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So, all right. So hopefully, Matt, that answers your question. And then for any of you who are having that same problem, it helps you guys out as well. So the final question we're going to answer this week, and all these, just so you guys know, we've already responded to them in the Facebook group. So I've already went out there and made sure at least someone was answering or I was answering. But the fun thing is I like to bring those questions onto the show because there's a lot of other people that might have the same problem or question. And so that's kind of the benefit of you guys posting in the Facebook group instead of emailing me. But still feel free to email me. But that's the benefit of putting it there so everyone else can see. So Abbey had a question about her hard drive. So she is running a Windows machine, not a Mac, but she got a notification saying that she was experiencing a hard disk error, or that her hard disk there was something wrong with it. And she posted asking, is this something to be concerned about? And, I think Jim Collison was actually out there. He jumped on it right away. He jumped on it within 5 minutes and said, yes, definitely don't really do anything else with your computer until you get a backup. And so whenever you experience anything like that, that's some indication that your hard drive is failing in some way. And usually when it starts to fail, it's going to fully fail pretty quickly. It's a pretty quick downhill slope on that one. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to want to, first thing you got to do is get a backup. And so usually there's a lot of different backup services out there. I think there's one built into Windows. If you can't do anything, at least have an external hard drive and drag your main files that you use. If you can't do a full system backup, I use Carbon Copy Cloner. Carbon Copy Cloner is a good one. It just literally clones the entire drive onto a different hard drive, so you have everything. Time Machine, that would work okay. It's going to take a long time. And the way it indexes is kind of odd, and then restoring is a little weird, but it would work. Time Machine would work if that's a last. But I would say at least, drag over the files first of all. Use something like Carbon Copy Cloner, and then as a last resort, kind of use Time Machine. But Time Machine's really meant to be a totally different thing. It's not really meant to be a backup. It's meant to be hey, I accidentally deleted something last week. Let me kind of scroll back through the week and do that. But one of the good things about having Colin here is that we actually both did hard drive updates recently. Mm-hmm. And I think we were both shocked how easy it was and how quick it was.
Well, I think more so me than you, because I feel like you going into it kind of had an idea of what you were going to do.
Right.
I showed up just with the hard drive that I went and bought. Mike had the connector, and we used his computer to download Mavericks.
Yep.
It was what 45-minute process total.
Yeah.
To not clone, but clone the hard drive. Just taking my old one, throwing it into the new computer, and I mean, instantly now 5.5-year-old MacBook. It's not even a Pro, just a MacBook from 2009. It was like a brand new computer. It turned a 5.5-year-old computer into a 1.5-year-old computer.
That was my biggest shock. So yeah, doing the whole process, and what we're talking about here is an SSD. So for most of you, if you are looking to replace a drive, I'm pretty much guessing it's an old spindle drive, because the SSDs are pretty new and most people haven't had to replace them yet. But an old spindle drive that has moving parts in it. And so those moving parts, a little arm that's reading little tiny disks, that is going to wear out over time. And so when you replace it now, the new latest and greatest hard drive technology is called an SSD, a solid state drive. And there's no moving parts in it. And they are blazing fast. Like, I can't even tell you how much faster it'll be than your old spindle drive. And the nice part about recently is that they're coming down in price. I know, yes. I mean, even from when I bought mine, I replaced both my drives back in August. And it had already dropped $50 more by the time you did it. When did we do that? In December?
Yeah, mid-December, early to mid-December.
Right. And so, I mean, they just keep coming down in price. I posted a SSD out on the Facebook group in a response to Abby's question. I think it was like less than $100 for a 240 gig SSD. And so, I mean, obviously there's some brands you want to stick to. I think OWC, Crucial, Samsung, all those are going to be pretty good.
Yeah. Western Digital is usually a good one.
Western Digital is good. I've heard mixed reviews on Kingston. Kingston, I think, is one of the cheapest ones you can actually get. There's mixed reviews. They're okay. Yeah. But yeah, so replacing the hard drive, first of all, do that backup. Second of all, don't be afraid of the whole replacing a hard drive thing, because it's actually not as hard as you think. And if you guys ever have any questions about that whole process, definitely email me, mike@uyghurtech.com, and I can walk you guys through the entire process. Or there's tons and tons of YouTube videos. ifixit.com. iFixit is like, that's what I use. They have all the guides on replacing any hard drive you could ever want. And so head out there. But yeah, when you replace your hard drive, though, definitely go with an SSD. I think that was the main reason I kind of wanted to bring up the whole SSD thing, is because you can still buy the old spindle drives, but I would really suggest, if you're going to be putting a new hard drive in, put the SSD. Because like Colin said, I have the same computer he does. It's 5.5 years old, and it runs, I'm not joking, faster than the day I bought it.
Yeah.
And that's obvious, I mean, because you have a new hard drive that's faster than your old hard drive was the day it was new. And so it is going to be literally faster than the day you bought it.
And I mean, that's still with every file that was on the old computer. Music, movies. And I mean, if you're using iTunes for both, if you're on a Mac or Windows, you have iCloud. If you've bought a song or bought a movie, delete it if you're not watching it. Yeah. You can always download it or use Wi-Fi and watch it again.
Yeah. So, and I mean, and that gets us into, I mean, we could have a whole conversation. We probably will in a few weeks on how, no, but like how to store your data. And, you know, a lot of things now with the cloud, with network attached storage devices, with external hard drives being so cheap. Nowadays, there's just a whole different way to kind of store your data. I had a 1 terabyte hard drive in this iMac, and it was an old spindle drive, and I actually replaced it. I've only put so that's 1,000 terabyte, or 1,000 gigabytes. Thank you very much. Wow, I'm having some brain issues tonight. But so that's 1,000 gigabytes. And I actually went down when I put my SSD in it. It only has 250. And some people are like, whoa, didn't you miss the space? And not really, because I changed the whole entire way that I store stuff on my computer. Oh, yeah. And I actually have that hard drive right here. And sometimes I just plug it into an external casing and I just put stuff on it. So, yeah. So that's a whole different issue we can get into later. But yes, if you're, long story short, if you are receiving a hard disk error on your computer in any fashion, back up and then email me, go to Google, I'm not going to say Best Buy, go somewhere to your local computer guy and have them replace your hard drive for you, because it's actually cheap and you'll be extremely shocked with the performance. Mm-hmm. So that is it for the questions for this week, but next week we're going to get into some fun questions. I want to make sure everyone else that didn't get their questions talked about tonight doesn't think I'm not going to talk about them. So Michael Ray posted an article on net neutrality. Now, net neutrality is a huge issue right now. I mean, it would take 5 episodes if we wanted to really dive into it. And honestly, I'm not an expert on it. So we're going to kind of skim the surface. I'm going to let you guys know what net neutrality is. And by then the vote will be done, right? Is the vote?
That is, what day is the 26th? 2 days from now, Thursday.
Oh yeah. So
It's
by
on
next
Thursday.
week, the vote will be done. So there's a vote right now going through about net neutrality. So if you guys have never heard net neutrality before, don't worry. Next week I'll kind of give you guys an update, and it'll be a good week to do it. Is next week because the voting will be done, and I can just kind of cover it and do the basics. But yeah, a very good issue. Thank you, Michael, for posting that because it is the hot button issue right now in tech is that whole thing. So, and then also the iPhone battery question, also posted by Katie. We will cover that next week. I've talked to you guys a lot about batteries and how to save power and stuff like that, but we'll just cover over some more basics on if your iPhone is dying quicker than it should, or if your iPhone is dying, let's say at 20%. Sometimes people have that problem at 20%, all of a sudden their phone just turns off. We'll cover some of that stuff next week. But I thought, maybe we'll do 2 or 3 a week. I think that would be probably a good thing. Don't want to overload people, so. But now, right now, we're going to move into the topic, the whole reason that I brought Colin on the show, and that is SEO. Now, obviously, before we get in the conversation, SEO is, again, almost like net neutrality. You could spend a long time talking about this.
There's a lot to cover. I'm not even going to say that I know a whole lot. I can scratch the surface. I know the basics, the rudimentary understanding, and how to kind of help a website bump itself in search, but none of what I say is a quick fix solution in any way.
Right. So when we're talking about SEO, like I said, big topic. Tonight we're just going to kind of skim the surface, give you guys kind of the bare bones to what SEO is. So SEO, search engine optimization, pretty much making sure that your data, your content is found by people. Really. Mm-hmm. And so I think it started out being search engine optimization because that's how people find stuff on the web is through a search engine. And you're optimizing the way that your content gets found by search engines, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It sounds very redundant, but that's exactly what it is.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's, and I just want to kind of cover that for anyone who hadn't heard SEO at all. So kind of just give us, a synopsis. I know that's kind of hard to do, but so SEO, what are you trying to do when you're doing SEO, when you're improving your SEO?
So I will say the main goal when you're trying to improve SEO or getting into SEO for the first time is that you're trying to make it so that your website or your blog or whatever it may be that's online is getting found earlier and more often in search.
Okay.
You want to be able to get what you're putting out there in front of people. If what you're putting on your website doesn't make sense to your industry or just isn't of high quality, search engines notice. Google being the major, it's hard to say that like everyone's trying to do everything for Google.
Yeah.
But they're the ones they're the ones with all the algorithms that everyone knows about. So it's easier to kind of create around what they're telling you.
Right.
Yeah. And so in order to do that, they have all these algorithms, they have all these rules that I don't understand all of them very well. I will say one in particular, Panda. It's the Panda algorithm. It's all about content. It's about writing high quality content that answers questions and that is adding to the conversation online.
Oh, cool. I hadn't even heard of that one.
So if what you're writing is of high quality, it's answering consumer questions because people, when they search now, people aren't searching keyword based searches anymore that much.
Okay.
They're searching more, how do I find this or where is this? They're asking actual questions.
So almost like almost forming sentences,
yes.
Not really chopped up. Like we're not just saying one word.
Yes, and that is what is called semantic search.
Okay.
So if you're answering those questions or finding a way to come close to answering those questions, you may have a better chance of being found.
Okay.
I don't want to say you will or you won't. There's a maybe.
Right. So a big part of SEO, and maybe this is more recent than in the past, is actually content matters.
Yes.
So I think in the past, when SEO kind of first came about and when Google was just getting big, it was a lot of kind of just, setting up your website in a way that your code, your HTML code, your CSS, all that stuff would make sense to Google. But so now there's a lot more focus on content.
Yes. How your website looks, how it will read to the search engines, the bots that they send out, that still plays a large aspect, but people love to say that content is king. It's hard saying that content is king because it just plays a role. It has a role in the entire game.
Gotcha.
So if your website is up to date, it looks good, it's mobile friendly. I will say that's a big thing with Google lately.
Right.
If you've noticed on searches, you'll go online, search for something, and you might see a mobile friendly little sticker almost next to a URL. That's a big thing with Google. I don't know how much it affects in search, but Google has said it will have an effect.
Okay.
What that effect is, it's still kind of being found out.
So if we break it down, there's kind of two sides to it. So for SEO, there's content, and there's ways you can improve your content, and then there's ways you can basically change your code to be more Google friendly.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to focus tonight on the content aspect because you know the coding is something that, first of all, I don't even do my own coding because I don't know how. No. I know basics, but nothing big, and so I don't think a lot of my listeners actually do any coding. And the coding side is actually, I think, a little more straightforward than the content side. I think maybe or maybe not.
I mean, maybe I can't speak so much to the coding because, I mean, we have people in our office who are far better at it than I am, who actually I can't do it at all that much. So they are much more equipped to handle that.
Right.
But in terms of content, for what I write, there are so many different ways that you can write something to be SEO friendly. Okay. Which is tough, but again, it comes back to answering the three questions that I said before. Is it high quality? Is it, I would say, over a certain word number?
Oh, really?
So it's hard for search engines to find enough of a keyword in a short post. So 200 words or less. If you're 250 and over, it adds a little more room to have maybe a keyword or a key phrase that you're trying to hit.
Okay.
So I would say if you're going to write a blog, try and go over between 250 and 300 every time.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it can be tough, but sometimes you'll realize as you're writing, like you've hit 300 words and it's like, okay, that was easy. But that's one, high quality content with that amount of words. Answering the questions. So going into each post with a question in mind.
Okay.
Like, what am I writing this for? Who am I trying to reach? And why am I trying to write this? And then finally just having value. If what you're writing isn't of value to your industry, why are you writing it at all? That's the big thing for me.
Okay. So this is something you need to be thinking about like before and while you're writing. This isn't like an after the fact thing.
No, it's
okay. See, this is kind of I'm going to learn something. I'm going to learn a lot of new things tonight because SEO for me is something I'm not trained yet to think about it. And it's kind of different for podcasters, but not really. It's something we should be thinking about. But I always think about it after the fact. Okay, what am I tagging this with? And I guess I am, in my mind, afterwards I'm looking more at the code setting because I'm tagging. Yeah. I'm making sure my permalinks and my metadata and all that stuff's right. But you're saying there's a lot of it that needs to happen while and before you're writing. And
with after, when it comes to the metadata, however you want to say that.
Tomato.
Yes. I will say a big thing with that is making sure that everything, your page titles and the meta information or the meta description, which is that little blurb you see on every search result.
Yep.
Making sure every page of that is unique.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, this isn't trade secrets that I'm giving out. This is very general information. If what you have on each page is not unique, you will confuse search engines.
Okay.
And if you confuse search engines, they just won't rank you.
Right.
So
makes sense.
Consumers are much more likely to find someone on the first, sometimes the second page. Not many people are willing to go to that second page. Okay. They'll just redo their search in a new way. But if you're being found third, fourth, fifth, and so on pages later, you're going to have a rough time.
Right. Well, and that makes sense because also when I'm thinking of when I search for something, so if I'm thinking it from the consumer point of view and not really the content creator, when I'm searching something, I am doing semantic search, so I'm typing in a sentence, and then usually the ones I'll click on have the best, like you said, metadata, or that, that sentence that's there, or I'll go for the one that literally has the most words like bolded that I typed in. So like you said with your writing, where answer that question, well, I mean, and Google sees that. It says, oh, when I searched for is my dog sick? When I, look on the web, I'm going to go to the site that actually uses those words most together.
Oh, yeah.
And so even as a consumer, not that I'm tricking Google, but my brain is set to do that. And so was Google. Google's kind of looking at trying to, because basically the thing you got to remember with SEO is everyone thinks of it as kind of like, oh, I got to get SEO, but what it really is making sure that your people can find your content and that it's good content, right? And so that Google wants the best content that people want on their search. That's what they want. Yeah. And so I sometimes hear people just talk about SEO as kind of a thing, like they're focusing on that so much. I'm like, well, kind of what Colin said, what you write and the value, and that your content actually brings value to customers. And sometimes even when it comes to podcasting, I ask myself that every time is, okay, when I'm picking topics for the night, is what is going to bring value to my listeners? And so a lot of times I like to answer questions more because I know that helps people. So everything kind of has its realm of value, but I guess that does make sense. If you're writing just to write or to hear yourself talk, don't expect big results. You can still do it and put it out there, but don't expect big things.
Yeah. And I mean, SEO is one piece of a larger puzzle. And like content technically isn't an SEO form. Like content marketing is brought into SEO.
Okay.
And I mean, you could also say that paid search is brought into SEO. Everything kind of feeds back into each other.
Okay.
So SEO on its own is your trying to get found earlier in search. I wouldn't say that it's dependent solely on content or it's dependent solely on your website. Everything has to work together for SEO to work together, for SEO to work to your advantage.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're going to be spending a lot of money or spending a lot of time on not being found.
So don't just focus on one thing.
Yes.
You got to make sure you got the whole picture in there.
Yeah. Start small, especially, the big thing for me when I am writing, I'm normally talking or trying to talk to small businesses or potential clients.
Right.
So making that connection simpler is here's what it is, or here's what you need to know kind of thing.
So that leads into my next question then. So you don't need to talk about your specific company, but just SEO, marketing companies in general. What are you guys looking to do when you guys are meeting with clients? Is it kind of a thing of these people literally have not heard the word SEO and you guys are introducing it to them? Or are you working with their programmers, or is it kind of a whole all-encompassing sort of thing?
I haven't had much experience with the client communication, but from what I know of just digital marketing, and from what I've heard of some clients just wanting to know and asking questions,
right?
There will be those times when people come in having heard about it and kind of Googling and looking for information, kind of thinking they have a good understanding, but there can be bad information out there.
Okay.
So it's making sure that people have the connection between what's good, what's not, and how together people can bridge that gap, and making sure that people aren't putting resources in a place where they shouldn't, or making sure that they're putting more resources towards something that they might need. So more content on their website.
Okay.
And content isn't just written. I want to specify that. Content could be text on your website, images, video, infographics. It could be pretty much anything. Content is all encompassing for what lands on your website.
Okay. Gotcha.
But it's it plays a role, and it's making sure that clients understand maybe right now this isn't something you want to focus on, or right now this is something you want to focus on.
So teaching them the balance.
Yes.
Showing them where to spend their time. And that's the thing I think about SEO a lot, is I think a lot of people end up wasting a lot of time focusing either, like you said, too much on one thing or not enough on the other. I know that, back when I just generally had heard about SEO, so I was going through my site, I was doing some of the tweaks and stuff like that, but I was focusing so much on the little things that it really wasn't making that much of a difference. So now that I've started to look broader, and when I start, for podcasters, for example, for me as a podcaster, Google has, I don't think yet, they don't look through your audio. They know you have audio on your site, but they don't look through it. So obviously they can't, they probably in the future they will be able to. But when Google looks at my site, and when I have all my posts of my different episodes, really the only thing I'm giving Google is my title and maybe some tags I did. But what I recently started doing, and I have seen instant results within a week or two, I saw huge results, was doing full show notes where I'm typing in full paragraphs. I'm putting every single topic I talked about in that post. And so it just helps Google, I think, better understand what I'm talking about. And then also going in, using tools like Google Webmaster Tools.
Yes.
Going in, submitting what's called your site URL, which, what does that actually do with Google?
Well, with your URL, you normally will have a sitemap underneath it.
Okay.
And so a sitemap, what Google or other search engines, so Bing or Yahoo, what they will read is an XML sitemap, and I'm not going to try and get very confusing.
Well, yeah, we don't have to, but just generally,
but
what does it do for Google?
An XML sitemap gives an entire listing of your website through URL form to Google showing them where stuff is and giving the Google spiders the chance to go and read each page of your website.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
a big thing to that is Google spiders, they don't have all the time in the world devoted to reading your website.
Right.
So you may not have every page indexed.
Okay.
So it's important to update pages.
Gotcha.
The more you update pages, the more chances you have being found.
Okay. So really, it's kind of like giving Google the floor plan to your, if you think of your website as a house, this is kind of giving them the floor plan so that when they walk in, they can have a quick way of saying, okay, this is where everything's at. Yep. This is how we're going to index it. And so that, like you said, so those crawlers can do things. And I did notice that when Colin says, the crawlers sometimes don't index everything all the time. It's very true. Actually, when I was looking at all my pages through Google, some of them actually weren't updated. I noticed, it takes a few days, sometimes a week, sometimes longer. But submitting your sitemap to Google Webmaster Tools already, and first of all, you can track it. You can start to see how many searches you're getting. You can see how many hits, actually how many clicks you're getting. So when someone searches compared to actually when they click, you can start to see a lot of that data. But as you guys can see, as we're talking about this, SEO is huge. It is just such a large topic.
It keeps growing. Like you start, we started very small, just talking about content in your website, and we're talking about sitemaps.
Right.
So it all builds on each other.
And this is why there's companies devoted to SEO. First of all, to stay on top of it because it's ever changing. It doesn't stay still very long because first of all, the search engines are always doing something different. And then the users are always doing something different. If you think about, how our search has changed so much, even just the fact that, we can speak our search now into Google, stuff like that. We're changing the way we interact with all these search engines. So it's always changing. So those companies, they keep up to date with it. And then they help people who just it's so much to think about. Yeah. So interesting. Okay. So, it's kind of some basics. We covered the basics of SEO. There's content, and then there's kind of your code, SEO. If you broke it down kind of into two categories, there's that. And then there's so many things on the outside that you can do, but make sure you stay balanced, I think is what we kind of learned tonight. Focus on everything. And it's something to think about while you're creating content, before, after. Be thinking about it all the time. Not something like I used to do is just think about it after the words, because you'll be amazed at the results if you really do think about it all during. And even if you just use a few best practices, if you just Google SEO best practices, sometimes you can find things.
Google will help almost spell out what they expect on a website.
Yeah.
Google is very good about letting you know what they may dock you for. So if Google says don't do it, you probably shouldn't do it.
Right. And if you honestly don't want to have to worry about it, a lot of this, if you have your own website, a lot of the platforms have built-in or plugins that you can add in to help with your SEO. So, for example, on WordPress, by far, I think the most popular one, there's tons, but the most popular is Yoast, an SEO plugin you can put in. It kind of prompts you to do more things, prompts you to put in that metadata, prompts you to put in the tags. It prompts you all the time to be putting in more stuff to help your SEO. And then even on sites like Squarespace isn't as advanced with SEO, but it does kind of, when you click on that SEO tab, it does say, hey, put in this sort of stuff, be tagging your things, and it gives you those boxes to put that stuff in. So just prod around if you have a website, prod around with some of that stuff, or look at those plugins if you have a WordPress site, because it really will help you out. But that's what I use. I use Yoast on my WordPress site, if you guys didn't know. And that just is because I'm not good at SEO. I'm interested in it. I think it's a lot of fun, but I'm not good at it. So I let someone else help me out with that. But I have noticed results, so it's kind of fun.
Yoast is a good one.
Yeah. You use that? Is that what you guys use?
Yeah.
Okay. So see, even the pros, they use Yoast. Pros use all the tools too. Even pros need tools.
Yoast is very good at giving you kind of the quick rundown and making sure that in a post you have certain things. And it's a good reminder every time to make sure that what you're doing is good instead of bad, which is what it says.
They really help with your sitemap too. I really liked that. They have a lot of options that you can customize your sitemap and stuff like that. So for me, I had certain things that were wonky with my site, and so you were able to really make your sitemap work for Google, which is kind of nice. But they do a lot of things. So beyond that. All right. Well, I think that is going to do it for the show. Is there anything else you want to talk about? You're here. You have a microphone in front of your face.
That's never a good thing.
Okay. I agree. Same with me, because I can be known to ramble a little bit. Yeah. But anyway, so I want to thank you guys for listening this week. And again, I want to thank WLMNradio.com. I want to thank Roger and everyone over there for everything they do for me. They're just a huge help. They've helped me out with the software that I use, and they stream me on their website. So just a big thank you to them. They're awesome. Go give them a shout out, or give them a look. What do you say? I don't know. I don't know.
Just go check them out.
Yeah, check them out. That's mainly what I was looking for. So check them out.
Give them a listen.
Yeah, give them a listen. I like that. Give them a listen. And then also, if you guys want to help the Uyghur Tech Scholarship Fund, you guys can head over to UighurTech.com/Amazon, and that's WIEGER tech.com/Amazon. That'll just redirect you to Amazon, and it doesn't cost you anymore. It just tells Amazon, hey, Mike sent me over there, and just a small, very small percentage of whatever you buy comes to me, and we put that into a fund that we use to do a lot of tech stuff. So it supports a lot of different areas. If you guys want to read up more on that, UighurTech.com/scholarship fund / it's somewhere on that site. If you just go to the menus, it's there. But that's how you can help out Uyghur Tech. That would be awesome. I would really, really appreciate it if you guys did that, because I know a lot of you shop on Amazon. So you might as well help me out, right? That'd be awesome. So, all right. Well, thank you to you guys for tuning in, and thank you for those of you guys who were out live tonight. And again, Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Central Time, omnpodcast.com/live. But for any other stuff on the podcast, omnpodcast.com. It's all there, all the subscription links and everything. Go out and share it with a friend this week if you want. Write an iTunes review, maybe. Who knows? But until I see you guys next time, tech on.